Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dr. Sophia ObGyn Podcast. I'm an ObGyn practicing for over 15 years in my native New York City, and I love to help women learn about their bodies, empower them, and embrace themselves. On this podcast, we talk openly and with heart about all things affecting women, from pregnancy, menopause, periods, sexual health, fertility, and so much more. Disclaimer: this is general medical information based on my professional opinion and experience. For specific medical advice, please refer to your physician. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Sophia ObGyn Podcast. I am so excited. We are back. We took a little hiatus, which we all need sometimes, but we're back to enjoy another season of the Dr. Sophia ObGyn Podcast. And to start this one off, we decided to talk about a topic that seemed pretty near and dear to my heart because I am going through it. I happen to be feeling very off, very fatigued.
You don't look like it though, but okay, keep going.
Very scatterbrained and headachy and achy. And I was like, God, I must be getting sick. What's wrong with me? And no, my period's coming. I'm just PMSing.
Oh, those three letters.
PMS.
Yes.
Premenstrual syndrome. And I was like, what are we going to talk about today? Why don't we talk about that? And so without further ado, I am joined by my good friend and co-host, Touseef Mirza.
Hi, everyone. So we're excited to be back. And you know, what's interesting with PMS, we've done over 40 episodes, number one, which is really exciting. It feels like we've done a lot of substantial topics up until now, and sometimes they're very serious. And then when we started to talk about PMS and Sophia started talking about PMS, I said, it's true. Like, this is something that almost every woman goes through, and we haven't even had a chance to talk about it because there's so many things to talk about. But PMS is like a constant that all the women can sort of
relate to.
Yes. And just understand each other on that point. So why don't we just talk about that? So it was literally, we were having brunch and Sophia was telling me how she was feeling a little anxious. How were you feeling?
Anxious, tired. I went to bed at 9:00 at night, which is unheard of. And so I was like, what is wrong with me? And it's so crazy how it happens every month, and yet it feels brand spanking new, like it never happened before.
Like you don't know why this is happening to you at that moment in time.
In the moment, in the feeling, I couldn't put two and two together, you know? And yes, I know I'm an ObGyn, but no, I'm not tracking my period.
You're like one of us when it comes to that.
Well, mostly because I'm not trying to get pregnant or my periods don't really exist because I also happen to be, my method of birth control is an IUD that's a hormonal one. So I also don't get any bleeding or spotting or cramps to also give me the other signals that my period is coming. So it's really more so these kind of some physical symptoms and then a little bit of breast tenderness and mostly this mental stuff of feeling more anxious, a little bit more scatterbrained or a little bit more my ADHD symptoms, I feel
just pop up more.
Yeah, more it's harder for me to concentrate. It's harder for me to just stay focused. And granted, I'm also a woman of a certain age.
Yes.
And so...
Which is 46.
Or 47 or 48 going to be, right?
Yes.
So anyway, but go ahead, make me younger. It's fine. Anyway, the bottom line is I'm also perimenopausal. So when I'm going through these kind of roller coaster of feelings, emotions, and feelings in my body, sometimes it is hard to differentiate, And since I'm not tracking anything, but yeah, no, it's trackable.
You're just not doing that.
It's definitely trackable because the people in my life are clearly telling me. And so, yeah, I felt extremely tired and it just fell on me. And it fell on me and I had a headache. And I think I was a little short with my staff. I was a little, crabby.
This was yesterday?
This was yesterday.
Okay.
I feel a little better today.
Okay. And then you were also feeling anxious about the past?
Oh my God. I could not sleep. So I went to sleep early because I was like exhausted. But then in the middle of the night, I woke up and had all these racing thoughts and thinking about stuff that it's like, why? Like, why am I thinking about this now?
Like, usually you don't even think about these things, really.
Like something that happened like 20 years ago, and then like perseverating over it and then switching immediately to something else, like a patient who asked for her records. And then I was like, oh my God, well, why is she asking for her records? Is she moving? Did she just not like the care she got? Like, what's going on? And then like going on, this is at 3 a.m. Ain't nothing I could do about it. And moreover, like, it doesn't even matter, but I could not stop. And I tried all the things that I tell my patients to do, count backwards, deep breathing, and then it just kept coming back and coming back.
And you, at that point, you still didn't associate that with PMS. You were just like, I'm just kind of losing it a little bit.
Yeah.
And something's wrong with me.
Yeah. I was kind of like, damn, these things are really bothering me. Like, I need to talk to a therapist about this. And then I woke up, and outside of the hot flash, like I was off and on with the sheets last night. And I haven't kind of been like that for the last couple of weeks. Like, I just don't remember feeling that. But last night it was off and on, off and on, off and on. And then I woke up this morning and I felt a little better. Yes, of course, I did go to bed a little earlier, but I can't say that I was well rested because, like I said, I woke up at 3. I can't say that I went back to sleep probably for at least 2 hours perseverating. And then, like I said, this morning, though, I woke up and I have a little bit more energy. It's not this like doom and gloom. It's not like life is okay. Life is actually, I feel good. We saw each other. I was super happy that we were here connecting. And yeah, I just feel different. And then I was like, maybe my period's coming.
Maybe. Just maybe.
And I have to tell you, I was like, yo, how do I end up here every month? Like, it's like, it was like brand new. Like, it's never happened to me before.
Like, this is like, obviously, well, it's interesting because we don't even think about, is this PMS? Because we're so in it that we can't see past our emotional state. We can't think rationally at that point. We're just going through the feels.
I was just present in it. So I couldn't see around it. I guess that's the only way to say that, because of course now when I woke up and I was like, oh, this is just my period coming. I had just a little twinge of a cramp that to remind me.
Oh, right. And all the dots started to connect.
And then it was like, duh,
Miss ObGyn. But I love that you're saying that because, we're obviously all in it too. But sometimes you say to yourself, well, I don't have my periods anymore. But when I used to have the periods, and that would happen to me all the time, I would feel just sad. And I'm not a sad person. And it's like, where's my life going? And just depressed or heavy. And then I was just like, okay, well, c'est la vie. That's just my life. And then 6 days later, Mrs. Period comes in and I'm like, you You again? And now I'm just hunky-dory. Life is fabulous and everything's fine. And then you start that all over again
And then
the next month.
That's the cycle. That's the cycle. It starts all over again.
But the fact that also you're going through that and, you're looking at vaginas and vulvas and talking about periods and all that.
All the time.
All the time. And it still happens to you. So for me, that gives me like, okay, it's okay if I feel it, like other women, like if you're in it and you can't feel it, it means for the rest of us, that's just like something that happens and we have to just give ourselves a little bit of slack.
Way more grace. But moreover, it's so funny because when I'm speaking to my patients, it's so easy to identify.
Because you're outside of it.
Because I'm outside of it. And that's the key. I think the key is understanding that when you are like outside of it, you can see things so much more clearly.
Right.
But when you're going through it, when you're in it, you can only be in it. It's like you can't at all. I don't know how to explain it.
So when you were saying that, it's like the image that comes to my mind is this sort of concept of, we talk about it when you have certain systemic issues where when you're in it, you can't see it because you're in it. So it's almost like a goldfish that's in water can't realize that it's in water because it's been in water all the time. So it doesn't know that water exists, because that's just its reality. So you're so in it that you can't really, it's almost like you can't make the difference between yourself and what's happening to see it in an objective way.
All I'm saying is that I couldn't figure it out as if it never happened before. Meanwhile, it clearly happens every month. It's a cyclical thing. Okay, I get these menstrual headaches, and I know I get menstrual headaches. Like, I know that.
This is part of you. This is part of,
yes,
this is not something coming out of left field.
This is not brand new. This is not. And yet when it was happening, I was like, oh, this was such a hard week. It was so easy for me to be like, oh, I really worked every day. And so, I was at the computer like way too long yesterday. And so that, it's my eyes. I need to get my eyes checked. Like I just went through this whole legit went through this whole thing.
So considering that, number one, I just want to back up a bit because, I like to really make sure that we're providing the information. At the beginning, you said, I have an IUD. So can you say what an IUD is?
Intrauterine device.
Which is?
A form of contraception.
Okay.
It's placed inside of the uterus.
Okay.
I have one that's hormonal, which means it has a little bit of hormone around it.
Okay.
And the reason why I particularly like it is because it helps to make my period very, very light. And in my case, at this point, it's almost non-existent. Like I don't really get any bleeding.
So basically, you just don't have periods.
Right. I don't have the bleeding.
So what do you have in terms of the period aspect then?
Almost nothing, actually. I don't.
Okay.
I mean, there are some months where I may see a little bit of spotting.
Okay.
But at this point, almost at least in the last 6 months, I haven't had any bleeding at all.
So for you, it's like you're not even having a period. So it's really even more than the rest of us that have periods. It's not even front of mind that it's happening every month because you don't have it.
Exactly. It's not like I have to go and buy pads. It's not like I have to do all the things in terms of dealing with the bleeding aspect of my period.
Right.
However, my body is still going through the cyclical changes, right? The changes that happen in your body in terms of the hormones that would make you have a period.
So that's a very interesting point. So it's not the period that's causing the PMS. It's really your cycle. So regardless of whether you're having an actual period or not, like, for example, if you're on the pill or on IUD, you're still going to have PMS. Because I think maybe some people think, well, I won't have PMS because, I don't have any periods anymore because of my birth control. But that's not how it works.
Well, it depends on what type of birth control you're on and how you're taking your birth control. Yes, for sure. But there are a lot of other reasons that I could think of more so. Like, for example, a woman who may have had a hysterectomy at a young age for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So she no longer has a uterus, but her ovaries are still in place. And so her body is still going through the cycle, even though she's not having any bleeding. And so that is where I think is a little bit more similar in terms of what could be happening, like the concept of not seeing blood, but still going through what I'm going through, which is PMS or premenstrual syndrome. And we should take this time to just give a little definition. So PMS is when a woman experiences both some physical changes as well as behavioral changes and maybe some emotional changes that happen a few days prior to her period. And then typically once the period happens, a lot of those symptoms are alleviated. And some of those symptoms could be bloating, could be breast tenderness, could be fatigue, could be headaches, could be changes in bowels, could be weight gain, certainly things like cravings, like wanting more sugar or chocolate, or some of the things that I was experiencing as well, sleep disturbances, feeling hot flashes, feeling irritable, mood changes,
Tired,
anxious. Like there's just such a slew of these symptoms. And so PMS is when those symptoms are kind of affect you, maybe not to the point where it completely disrupts your life, but certainly can be noticeable.
So those are a lot of different types of symptoms that we just went through, right?
I know.
So why does PMS even happen? Like what is happening to our bodies that, and also I'm sure that different women have different symptoms in different gravities or severities as well. Like and it can change over time, but why is this happening in our bodies?
So it's happening because in our menstrual cycle, we have these fluctuations, which are normal. This is what we want to be happening. For those of us who are having regular cycles or normal periods, this is exactly what should be happening in our bodies, in the sense that we have these fluctuations in some of our hormones, particularly estrogen and progesterone. And so when we first go, there's two phases basically in our period. There's in terms of the cycle, there's what we call the follicular phase, and then there's another phase called the luteal phase. And they're kind of like in equal parts. And so what's happening during the follicular phase is your progesterone and your estrogen are starting to build.
So this is around how many days before your period starts?
When your period starts, a new period signifies the new beginning of your follicular phase.
So let's say I have 5 days of period. The 5th day it stops. The 6th day is my follicular, which is the first day of the new cycle.
No. The first day of the new cycle starts with the day you have bleeding.
Oh, so it's not after the period. It's actually at the first day of the period.
Everything revolves around your first day, really, of your period, because remember, how long your period lasts is different for everybody. There's really varying degrees around that. But the first day is the first day. Okay. So that's a good way to kind of gauge it in your mind. And so the first day is basically like the new start of the follicular phase. The follicular phase is, again, when your estrogen and progesterone are now starting to build up again. And they build up to a critical point that we get to ovulation. And the whole point of the follicular phase is to prepare your uterus for ovulation.
Which is the egg coming out of the ovary.
Is when your egg comes out of the ovary. All of this is to prepare for a pregnancy.
And this is approximately like the 14th day.
Yeah, right around there. Let's just say for someone who has a typical 28-day cycle, then we'll say, somewhere around day 14. Okay. So now around day 14, we don't get pregnant. We've ovulated. And now we enter in what's called the luteal phase.
So you're saying the egg went toward the uterus. You don't actually fertilize the egg. So now we get to the luteal phase. Or else you will not go to the luteal phase because you're starting to have an embryo.
We don't enter the luteal phase if you are pregnant.
Right. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. If you are pregnant, the hormones go in a different direction. So just imagine it's kind of like, just like a little hill. Basically, it goes up, your hormones are going up to the point where we get to ovulation. When we get to ovulation, either we're going to have a pregnancy or we're not. If we have a pregnancy, those hormones continue to go up. And if we don't have a pregnancy, then those hormones start to drop down. And it's as they're dropping down, and that takes a little time. There's a small place where there's like a little bump again, but then they come down again. And going down from the second bump is when we are likely going through our PMS phase. It's that downward slope of estrogen and progesterone going down that is likely what's kind of causing some of the symptoms that we're experiencing.
So it's after the 14th day. Because usually, and I guess it's different for different women, but usually for me, I remember it wasn't like right before my period that I would have PMS. I would have certain symptoms maybe around like 4 or 5 days before, and it lasted for about 3 days. So does it vary, like in terms of when?
I would say on average, most women tend to feel PMS symptoms maybe about 2 to 3 days before, but up to 5 days is not unusual for sure. And there are varying degrees of this, and not every woman gets all of the symptoms. I talk to you about what my symptoms are, but for someone else, it could be totally different symptoms. And it can also be, more severe. So my symptoms certainly did not stop me from working. It didn't stop me from being with friends or, interacting with my family. But for other women, they experience something called PMDD So before we go there, I just want to ask one more question, which is, so the progesterone and the estrogen are going down. This can cause these symptoms, but why does it cause these symptoms? Why does the lowering of progesterone or estrogen have these types of effects in us? That's actually a great question. And it's because there's an interaction between the hormones that our ovaries are secreting and our neurotransmitters. So things like serotonin and GABA. And so that interaction is a little different for all women in the sense that that's why some women experience PMS and some women don't. I mean, what's happening in our bodies is happening. We're always if you're going through your menstrual cycle in terms of estrogen and progesterone, but they do have an effect on serotonin.
Serotonin being your happy hormone.
Yes, exactly. And so, the downregulation of estrogen downregulates your happy hormone. And so it has an effect. And so for some women, they're not as sensitive to that. And others are very sensitive to that. So it's just that interaction.
So it's basically before that point, your hormones are kind of in balance, or they're making the serotonin happy hormone in a place where it doesn't affect us in a negative way. It's in balance, or maybe not in balance, but it's just a phase where everything is not affecting you negatively in terms of the hormone of serotonin. But after, or in the luteal phase, after the 14th day until your period, or...
Well, I wouldn't even say it's from the 14th day. I mean, really, it's those few days before your period.
Okay, there's those few days before your period where it's at the lowest.
There's a critical point. You know what I'm saying? There's a critical point or threshold it's got to get to, before you really start to feel some of those symptoms.
Okay. And then at that point, because it's low and it's interacting with serotonin, and that has an effect in terms of, is the serotonin lower during like when estrogen and progesterone is low?
Yeah. So we
I'm just a complete science nerd.
Yeah.
So
and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not studying the brain like that. Okay.
Because for me, I can visualize it. And then I'm like, oh, of course. Okay. Now I understand why these things are happening in my body. Okay. Then I just can go on with life.
Well, I will say this. Estrogen plays a role in how our bodies react and create serotonin. Do I know the absolute intricacies? No. And I don't know that we are fully clear on all of those intricacies as well. However, we do know that for some women, replacing serotonin, for example, during this part of the menstrual cycle helps them to deal with that part of the cycle.
So that can be a solution.
Be part of the solution, exactly, for women who have either extreme cases or just feel like it's disruptive enough to their lives that they want to have some management of the symptoms. I will say that if we're able to also, as you say, keep our hormones in better balance, and sometimes those things are just in terms of exercise, for example, as a way to handle or manage PMS. Why? Because when you exercise, you release other endorphins that help to keep you like better emotionally balanced in terms of mood and things like that, and even to manage some of the fatigue symptoms as well. And when you exercise, you also raise things like testosterone in your body, which again will help with energy. And so during the time when you're going into that luteal phase, and especially later in that luteal phase when you're approaching your period, if possible, this is the time to kind of like do change your eating habits, but to one that is supportive of not having highly processed sugars, maybe having things that are way cleaner for you. So, like,
but at the same time, we want chocolate.
but I know,
so what is up with that?
I know. Again,
Such a tease.
It's like I know. It's so hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard because we have an increase in our appetite. We almost feel ravenous sometimes just before our periods. And so we have an increase in appetite. We have an increase in cravings, wanting like sugary snacks. And for some of us, it's instead of sugary snacks, it's more savory stuff like potato chips, like stuff we know is not good for us.
Right.
But when we give in to that, it can also be part of what crashes us too,
So it's maybe psychologically in taste bud very satisfying, but you're not really helping your overall
yes,
body.
That is correct.
Maybe if you just take like little niblets and then you stop, just enough to satisfy you.
Yes, for sure. For sure. I would say that, there's something to be said about being able to replace some of our cravings with maybe better options, or just having them but in incredibly smaller portions to see if that's able to still satisfy the craving.
Yeah.
Maybe it's drinking a whole glass of water before you even indulge. Maybe it's having something and then replacing that thought process or that intense feeling with something else that's satisfying, like maybe calling a friend, doing some other social interaction that's going to be satisfying in order to take away that intense craving feeling. Yeah.
But I also think it's worth mentioning, especially when we don't realize that it's PMS and all of a sudden we just want to eat everything in sight. I don't know, how can we like help women? I don't know. It's almost like, in business, we have accountability partners that say, okay, did you do that? Did you do that? And then you're on top of things. It's almost like we need like PMS accountability partners.
Hey, I'm for it. I'm all for it.
So that other people are like, excuse me, are you PMSing right now? Like, this sounds really that. So then you can actually say, oh, okay, I'm not insane. Like, this is just my body doing its thing. And now I can have a different perspective, because as women, we have a tendency to put everything on our shoulders and say, oh, I'm crazy, or now I'm just like, I have no willpower, or whatever it is.
Yeah, you definitely put yourself down, and especially in this time. And honestly, having this conversation is, again, to open up the door to just a little bit of grace, because I needed to do that for myself. I really did. I was being crabby. And I know I was, of course, after the fact.
Right.
After the fact. And then I felt a little bad, actually, about that, knowing that I was like not so nice to some people around me. And then having to say to myself, maybe there's a couple of things I probably could apologize for. Or at least maybe I'll bring in a little sweetness.
Right.
Maybe at work. I'll bring my assistant a coffee.
Right.
On Monday.
Something.
One
thing I just remembered when I used to have my periods, and this can be like on another podcast also, one of my good friends at that time, eventually, they say your vaginas talk with each other, and then eventually your cycles like align. Like, after
that's a real thing.
That's a real thing, right? And so when I would say, girl, I'm depressed, like something, she's like, I'm depressed too. And then we would know it because I could see her. I said, oh my God, you're PMSing. Therefore, I'm PMSing.
Yo, that's great. I wish I had that.
That was actually a cue that I found because I could see it, like you were saying, you can see it with your patient, but you can't see it yourself. And because our cycles were aligned, it was so much easier to also reconnect with myself from that perspective.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't have that. Remember, I have sons and like.
And I don't have my periods. Our vaginas are not aligned.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Why can't you be my accountability partner, Touseef?
That would be so good. That would be so
I needed
good.
that PMS partner. Anyway.
So we were talking about there's PMS symptoms and then there's more serious form of the symptoms.
Yes, there is a more serious form of PMS, and it's actually, we consider it as a mental health disorder even, called PMDD, and that's premenstrual dysmorphic disorder. And in those instances, women tend to have symptoms for greater than 5 days. They tend to have symptoms that are very severe, especially their mood symptoms or affective symptoms, meaning that they may have like actual outbursts of anger. It's more than just feeling a little irritable. They may have deep, deep sadness, depression. It can look like someone's having like a major depressive episode. And I think the thing that really sets it apart is how dysfunctional actually they can be during this time. So this is when you see women who like have a lot of absenteeism during this time, these couple of days in their periods where they just can't function. They can't go to work. They have a lot of difficulty in terms of social interactions. And of course, they still are actually having physical symptoms, the intense weight gain just in a few days, intense bloating, the fatigue as well.
Is it just a more intense version of PMS, or it's literally a different type of health effect? Is it for the same reasons, like your progesterone and estrogen are going lower, but maybe it's a drastic drop or something, or is it something completely different?
I think it certainly is not something we can say, okay, we can do some lab test for per se. However, it's not even that your progesterone is dramatically dropping in any way. I think what's happened though is that perhaps those women have a difference in terms of their receptors. That may be part of why they experience such an intensity of what's happening with them. And we call that PMDD.
So has PMDD been around for a long time? Like I feel yes. Okay. I was never told about this. Not that I thought I have PMMD, but it wasn't in my world, that term.
Well, thank goodness, because it's not as common as PMS. And it really does require the severity of symptoms to even have the diagnosis. And it has to be that it occurs with at least 3 consecutive menstrual cycles. Like I said, especially when it comes to like PMS, you can do little things that can change some of the feelings that you're having,
to alleviate
it, either ways that you're eating, your lifestyle changes, exercise, etc., that can actually alleviate some of those symptoms. When we're talking about PMDD, it's truly like a downward spiral that is incredibly disruptive to your life. And those women typically need treatment. So most women with PMS, it's just a few days, literally. It's like 2 days and they feel a little, and their breasts are hurting and they're a little tired, but they're able to go to work, go to school, take care of their families.
It's just an annoyance.
It's an annoyance, but they are able to function. And women who are experiencing PMDD, they really have a hard time functioning during that time.
Does it last longer or it's similar as PMS?
Well, it's greater than 5 days. So we literally think of PMS as 5 days or like less than 5 days, right? It's going to be more so like maybe 2 or 3 days before menses happens. And then by the first or second day of your period, your symptoms are gone.
Oh yeah. You feel like a
brand new person.
Like Wonder Woman. Like you're just like, okay, right. Yes. This is me. Thank you. We're back.
Exactly.
Yes.
PMDD, it could be a little longer.
Okay. You mean longer than 5 days?
Longer, by far.
Okay.
Longer than 5 days. It can go into the menstrual cycle too. Like it takes longer because remember yes, estrogen and progesterone, once your period starts, it also starts to go back on an upswing, but theirs has got to get to a more critical point perhaps before they can really start to feel better.
Does it affect more emotionally versus physically, or it can affect both as
It can
much?
affect both, but certainly the affective symptoms are way more like predominant. Those mood changes, the feeling of deep sadness or like your life is over. I mean, people with PMDD, we worry even about those women because they have an increased risk of suicidality during that time. And so this is partly why it's so critical to make that kind of a diagnosis and to consider treatment.
And then once the period comes, then that subsides, like the PMS symptoms.
Yes.
So sometimes I guess women who don't know that these types of symptoms can be associated with your cycle would maybe go see a doctor or a psychologist versus recognizing that it's actually caused by their hormones. Does that happen?
Yes, but I think it's worthy of them to go to see even a psychiatrist because some of the treatments may come from the psychiatric meds.
Right.
And also, some of these women may have other underlying mental health issues that their periods are exacerbating. And so it's important to kind of be able to make that distinction. And maybe that distinction is not so easily made, but it needs to be addressed from a psychiatric perspective, not just a hormonal perspective, for example.
Do we know what's the percentage of women approximately that have PMDD?
The percentage of women who have PMDD is around 3 to 8%, as opposed to PMS, which is like 75% of women who may experience some version of PMS.
But it's possible that certain women don't realize that they have PMDD and they're suffering through what they think is normal symptoms of PMS.
Yes, that's totally possible. That's totally possible.
Because it's not something that people talk about. So, how am I supposed to know? It's just like, maybe I just have it worse. I just have a worse case of PMS.
That's one. And I think the other thing is that as women, we often normalize a lot of behaviors and a lot of ways in which we are feeling, and we try very hard to overcome them, or that people in our lives, because it's something that's been going on for so long, tend to walk on eggshells around us when they know that we're going through it. And other people are kind of managing us to some extent. And so therefore, it allows it to continue to go undiagnosed, or I won't say unnoticed because it's noticed. It's just how it's managed or how it's the receptiveness to what's happening in the body.
Is there a certain tendency of the evolution of these types of symptoms? I'm just talking about PMS right now. Over the course of a woman's life, like, for example, do we have less PMS symptoms when we're teenagers versus 20s, 30s, 40s, or there's no rhyme or reason?
No, I definitely think that like when women first get their periods, outside of just the kind of, you think of them, the moody teenagers, right? The puberty phase. Mm-hmm. So they're just kind of like always moody.
That's just their vibe.
But I think that the true essence of like PMS starts to really kind of develop probably in their early 20s or late teens, with women typically going through menarche or their first periods, let's say on average around 12. And although that number is definitely changing to as early as 10.
Wow.
But I would say that the whole concept of the real cyclical, obvious changes happening that we can associate with PMS, probably in the 20s, women really start to like hone in on it. And then I think it definitely improves. Clearly, you're not getting a period when you're pregnant, so you're not experiencing those symptoms. And some women, it improves after pregnancy, that they also don't tend to necessarily get the same symptoms that they had before pregnancy. And so that kind of pushes us into our 30s. But then there's another like upward tick of women really experiencing PMS as we approach our 40s and into our 40s, because now we're not only having still PMS, but entering that perimenopause phase. And I definitely think during perimenopause, when women are still getting their periods, but they are experiencing PMS symptoms, probably if you were someone who had it when you were younger, you tend to have a little bit more intensity of your PMS symptoms.
During perimenopause.
During perimenopause, yes. And then, of course, it's kind of hard, right? It's a little bit of a confounder, to be honest, because perimenopause comes with its own challenges, both physically and emotionally, because of the ups and downs that's happening in terms of your hormones. The thing that makes perimenopause a little bit more, I guess, significant is because you're still also getting your period. So you have the symptoms of menopause.
In perimenopause.
And you're still getting a period. So now you can have PMS.
So it's a double whammy.
So it definitely feels like a double whammy. I mean, women, listen, ladies, we need to have so much grace with ourselves, like literally so much grace with ourselves. Because if you are a woman of a certain age going through this, like, girl, a little bit of this, a little hug, because your body is doing a thing. And in the middle of it, we're still mothers, we're still wives, we're still career women, oftentimes at the peak of our game. And so, we need a lot of grace.
And then just to be clear, menopause, usually the average age is 51.
51.
So it means perimenopause, if it can start 5 to 10 to 15 years, it means you can start at 35, 40, 45. It's not like it's starting 1 year before menopause. Right. It's hanging around for a bit.
That is all correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't want to leave on a overwhelming, depressed note. I mean, how can women, like, for me, for example, I said I found solace in my friend that could like call me out. Or I could call it out because she was going through the exact thing that I was going through in the same amount of time. But how can we support each other as women? Like, is there a way, like, if women don't realize, and I know we say, you have to like be self-aware, but like you just talked about, but what if I'm not self-aware and I'm going down a deep hole? Like, is there something that we could do? Like, should women like ask their friends to like when something goes wrong to actually say, okay, and how much time are you having your period? Like, should there be something that we could start to implement more as sisterhood almost to help each other out?
I love that. I actually think that's a great idea. I know that I was called out on it by my partner.
Okay. And the partner, sisterhood, like, partners.
Yeah,
yes.
No, I mean, like sometimes it's the men in your life who actually can call you out on it because they recognize that this is the time for them to kind of be a little bit more like, let me let you have your moment, and not sweat the small stuff.
And that he actually recognized this is what you're going through. So he recognized it. Meanwhile, you didn't.
100%.
And gave you that space in accordance. But I think also just somebody telling you, this is your PMS. It's sort of like shift because we put everything like on our shoulders and we think that everything is our fault because that's the way that we've been brought up. And if somebody even just says, is that your PMS? It like sort of like snaps you out and say, well, hold up. That's so true.
So again, I will say, like full disclosure, sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't, because in my case, I was kind of like, no, I'm telling you, I'm getting sick.
Oh, you literally was pushing that away. You're just like, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
And again, when I said that I have a couple people I have to apologize to, that I woke up a different person, yay, we're good, and maybe I definitely think a couple of things we could be doing better, like maybe track it. If you're not getting your period, at least track your symptoms. And if you are getting your period, definitely track it so that you can kind of anticipate when you do feel a change in your body, so that you can go back and look at the app or the calendar or whatever it is that you're going to use.
Actually, I think it's better to, when you track it, just do it on a calendar. Right now, there's certain apps where we're not really sure in terms of privacy. So the recommendation is, yes, track it, but do it on a calendar. Like old school, pen and paper, just write it down.
Listen, Big Brother is everywhere. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
For those of us who, listen, a 24-year-old right now probably doesn't even know what a calendar is on pen and paper.
I know. Well, then Google it, go on Amazon, get like something you can pin to the wall and just do it that way.
Yes, old school.
So I think one of the things, I mean, I love that we're having this level of honesty. I also think like in the workplace, well, now, I have my own thing with the business and all that, but as sisterhood, I think that, if you're seeing Susan at work usually is always a certain way, and now she's just a hot mess, to actually just say, hey, are you okay? And it's just, I don't know, man, I just feel really crappy. And can we just normalize and say, oh, is your period coming up? It might be PMS. Can we just say that?
I think that's like huge if we could. I think, but some of us, I want to just be clear. I think some of us, if we've not gone through this process that we're going through,
right,
may get defensive, may feel harmed, may feel being made fun of. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's different if you have someone who cares about you and says, sis, I think it might be that time of the month. It's okay.
Right.
Right. But if some stranger comes to you and is like, yeah, are you PMSing?
Right.
Like
right.
that,
yeah,
that might not go over so well.
So it might be in the delivery, but also another way to do it could be to go to the person and say, how's it going? And if they say crappy, he said, I also go through that. And for some reason, I'm just feeling maybe you're going through that. So, to have the onus on you first, because then that's really what sisterhood is about, right? That we're in this together. We're not like pointing fingers. And to say, like, I'm just having a feeling like that's how I feel. So I'm just wondering, like, are you getting your period? Because that might be it.
Listen, I'm all for us being able to normalize the word period. I told you my story. It took me a long time even to tell my own husband that I was on my period. I mean, clearly he knew.
Right.
But it was something that I felt was so secretive. I think it would be fantastic, actually, if we could normalize periods, normalize the concept of PMS, so that way we are able to be gentler, not just with ourselves, but with each other.
And I think that in order to normalize PMS, we have to almost also normalize periods, because those go hand in hand.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah, so those go hand in hand. And so, like, for example, I remember, I don't know, like 10 years ago, whatever, and I was in this company, I was working in an agency, and then I had to go change my pad. And then it's like almost I had to hide. It's not almost, I did. I used to hide my pad so nobody would see that I would go to the bathroom and change it. And now I look back and, especially with doing this podcast and talking about it and all that stuff. And also I'm older and I don't care. But why are we hiding the pad? Like, can I just hold it in my hand and just walk? Like, what is wrong with that? Like, so I think there's so many different messages that shows that this is inadequate, dirty, shameful, wrong. And it's almost like we need to start to, as much as, like we're now starting to talk about menopause, like we're talking about, chocolate, whatever, like we're just talking about menopause. We should be doing that with periods. And I think if we talk about it that way with periods, then automatically PMS is not going to be a big thing.
Not only that, but it just opens up it deconstructs so many of the shame things that go along with normal things about being a woman.
Yes.
So I'm with you, sis.
All right. So we're going to do the revolution. People, girlfriends, can you just please take the pad and walk with it? Like, just don't hide it. Let's start there. Let's start with just talking with each other about it. And this is normal. Like, this is how we're built. This is how we're amazing. So let's just keep going that way.
I love it. You're absolutely right. It's a part of what makes us women. It's a part of what makes us amazing. It needs to be the part of us that we embrace.
I wish I had a pad right now and I would show it. Do you have a pad? Or a tampon? No, you're not on a period.
I don't have a period.
You don't have a period and I'm in
menopause. I don't got a pad.
It's as stupid as holding a pen when you think about it. I could be holding a pad or a pen. Both start with a P. Like, who cares?
The bottom line is that we should feel free enough.
Yes.
That it's not a secret.
No.
And it's okay.
Yes.
Ladies, you know where I'm going with this. Embrace your body. Embrace yourself. Embrace your period. Embrace your PMS. So that way we can love ourselves through it. We can
love our sisters through it. Embrace sisterhood.
Absolutely. Until next time, thank you for joining us on the Dr. Sophia ObGyn Podcast. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. This is general medical information based on my professional opinion and experience. For specific medical advice, please refer to your physician. Until next time, embrace your body, embrace yourself.